Everybody is Casting Court TV coming to you on this 4th of July holiday where y'all should be relaxing, maxing by the pool, barbecuing, chilling with the family, doing all of that. Great. That's great. That's great. I hope y'all are having a good day playing spades, drinking that hen rock, doing whatever it is that y'all do together at the cookout. I'm here for it. But just so you have your, news breaking, your taste of high profile cases, we're going to get into something really interesting today. So today we're going to talk about and I'm going to be looking at my notes per usual at the escaping twin flame universe. Now, y'all might remember this documentary that was done on both Amazon and Netflix, and this has to do with these two people. What is their names? Their names are uh, Jeff and Shaleia Divine, and they own this cult, this bait and switch cult that preys on people who are looking for love. Now, we're all looking for love. We all want a soulmate. We all want that in our lives. But this particular organization, which is largely online, preys on those who are looking for love. They promise people a soulmate. So basically, what's happening is that they've basically been conning people out of money, out of online materials, and making people join their cult, making them sever ties with their family in order to join their cult with the opportunity or guarantee of finding your soulmate. I guess they sort of model their organization after themselves and after their marriage, as it looks like they're, perfectly in love and all of this stuff. But really, what's going on is this is a cult. The government is calling it a bait and switch. Now, they're not being investigated by the feds, but they are being investigated by the Attorney General's office there in Michigan. Now, they live in a lavish, laid out mansion in northern Michigan. How do they afford it? I'll let you know. So, what they do is they sell their online products to desperately seeking soulmate folks who happen upon their website desperately. I think it's a twin flame universe. Um, and so they offer different materials. These materials can range from a $9.99 book on Kindle, a Kindle book, to a $8,000 what do they call it? $8,000 everything package. Now, what is everything? I have no idea what everything is. But this is crazy. Now, if this is giving you Jim Jones, Guyana kind of vibes, that is exactly what we're talking about. Or maybe in more current times, those of you know about Nexium, that's kind of what's going on here. They are creating their own little cult. So what they do is they say, hey, we're going to promise you, you're going to find your soulmate, this, that, and the other. You have to change your life. You have to, give them money. You have to do all this stuff. And then what they do is they get you to, change your life to their standards. And it's a whole bait and switch. That's what the government is calling it. And I should say that's what the Michigan Attorney General's office is calling it. They are calling it a bait and switch. The organization now is under scrutiny for coercion, financial exploitation, and identity manipulation. Now, 2 search warrants were issued on Tuesday, July 1st, just earlier this week, where they searched 2 of the couple's homes, one including that mansion I just mentioned, and another property right there in northern Michigan. Now, they weren't clear on what they were looking for. They didn't say what they were looking for exactly, but legal experts over at the Associated Press, which is my news source here, they are saying that they're probably looking for, anything from mail identity theft or mail fraud, or some sort of, paper trail that, sort of spells out the fact that these guys have received monies from individuals in order to continue this cult, or what I want to call it is a pyramid scheme. That's essentially what it is. Okay. They're preying on people, right? These are financial predators. These are identity predators. Now, while there's no info on what investigations were uh, looking for or seeking. The allegations are that the cult exerts, in quote, coercive control over its members across the United States through illegal acts. Now, in March, the couple released a statement defending the mission of the twin flame universe. So let's get into that. I'm going to read the mission, what they said. This is what Shaleia and Jeff Divine said in response to these allegations. We take seriously recent allegations implying we wield inappropriate control over our community members. After careful review of both media coverage and recent productions, we are saddened that so much effort has gone into taking swipes at an organization and community founded on love and mutual respect. Um, they also encourage people to contact, well, actually, what ended up happening after that is, or that preempted this particular quote, is that a lot of the former members have actually complained about this, about who they are and what they're really about, to separate news sources, including Vanity Fair, and then eventually went on to the Attorney General's office in Michigan to complain about this couple and their actions, taking over people's lives, making them sever ties with their families, all in the hopes of, or all in the potentiality and the promise of giving these people a soul mate. This is really crazy to me. And this is really giving, all of the cult vibes we've ever heard of, especially the Jim Jones vibes. Like, you have no idea, like, what people are into or what they're up to, right? So, some of the people in the cult have made, comment. And they say, it was a member is saying, Keely Griffin, a former member, says, it was a huge victory for survivors all around the world. I think to have that acknowledged by someone of her position, and she's talking about the Attorney General of Michigan, Neely, I believe that's her name. And she says, to have this acknowledged by someone of her position within law enforcement. Griffin, a former member, has spoken out against what she describes as the organization's coercive tactics. In a phone call with her on Wednesday, Griffin urged others to, and quote, please come forward and share your experience because it could really help save people from a lot of pain and misery. Now, as we recall with the Nexum people, they ended up actually the guy who was the cult leader of Nexum. He actually ended up, going to prison. I forget his name, but if you recall, this is the guy where the former actress Catherine Oxenberg, her mother was like looking for her. She knew she was wrapped up in this cult. This is the Nexum cult. He was, or actually Catherine Oxenberg is the mother of the girl that was wrapped up into the, cult, the Nexum cult, and was actually having some sort of affair with the cult leader. And I'm trying to get to this. India Oxenberg is the girl's name, and she's also like, an actress herself. But Catherine Oxenberg, she used to play on Dynasty and all of that, but she has been very, very vocal about the Nexum cult. I would say she had a lot to do with the cult's leader, and I'm trying to locate his name, guys, because I cannot for the life of me remember his name, but he was basically having a lot of, sexual. Keith Rainier, that's his name. He's in prison now, 64 years old, but he went to prison in 2018, and he was accused of operating this cult from 1998 through 2018, had a membership of 700, and it was basically founded to be a cult based on, ta-da, sex trafficking. That he was basically having sexual relationships with all the girls in this cult. He was getting them pregnant. He was pretending that he was in individual relationships with all of them. It was a big old deal. And this Nexum was supposed to change your life. And they were recruiting actresses and people of note. I believe oh gosh, that family. There's a very famous family. The women were involved in this particular cult as well. He received 120 years in prison, and he has had a $1.75 million fine, a $15,000 assessment pursuant to the Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act of 2015. He's ordered to pay $3.5 million restitution to 21 victims pursuant to Trafficking Victims Protection Act and Mandatory Victim Restitution Act. So the victims, they identified 25 women, 20 within the Eastern District of New York, because this happened in New York, and 21 persons recognized by a presiding judge. I remember when he was being apprehended by the feds, he was on the run for a really long time. Catherine Oxenberg, mother of India Oxenberg, Catherine's an actress again, she was really the one to break this case. And he was getting all kinds of money from people. It was based on executive success programming, and it was just really out of control. It was crazy. They did a whole Vanity Fair burst this wide open along with Forbes, who did the expose. Now, why is this important? This is important as it relates to this Jeff Shaleia business, because the members of the Nexum cult, they also the Nexum cult went to Vanity Fair to sort of expose the Nexum folks, Keith Rainier, and these people who were a part of the Twin Flame Universe cult. They went to Vanity Fair to do an expose, and of course, there's been the Netflix and the Amazon documentaries, which also Nexium got that treatment as well. So, right now they're in the beginning stages with the Attorney General's office of Michigan, really looking into this. They've executed 2 search warrants just earlier this week. It doesn't look good. Now, you're asking, like, where does it go from here? Well, where does it go from here is it depends on what they find, and it depends on what they're looking for. Now, I'm going to be willing to bet in this particular instance, because their scheme here with the Twin Flame Universe is mostly about money. So they're going to be looking for a money trail. They're going to be looking for, receipts. They're going to be looking for documents. They're going to be looking for bank statements. They're going to be looking for wire transfers and things of that nature. They're going to be looking for something that they can nail these guys with as it relates to mail fraud, wire fraud, anything like that. One of the things I used to do when I was at the district attorney's office, I worked very closely with our identity theft and consumer fraud unit, and our financial crimes unit. And those are the units within the district attorney's office, although this is the United States attorney, but those are the units within the district attorney's office that deals with things like this. So the difference here is that the AG is dealing with this, and the AG, what they're going to do is they're going to do their investigation. Their attorneys are going to look at it. They're going to have their attorneys who specialize in these financial crimes. Some of these attorneys are CPAs themselves. They're going to do these forensic, searches and forensic files on the Divine couple to see exactly what they're up to. They're going to exact their interviews with the former members. They may even bring in, some people. They may even, apprehend the Divines at some point. You know what I mean? So we don't know. But this search is a big step in the direction. This has been a big thing sort of carrying on for quite some time with this particular couple. People have been complaining about them. They have been going to the AG's office trying to get justice for themselves with this. So this is a big step forward. We're going to keep my eye on this one, but I would say, depending on what they're finding, depending on what they found within the last, that search warrant of those 2 properties, it's very possible that you could see some imminent arrest happen. This is why they do those search warrants, so that they can get a probable cause statement together, so that they can get an arrest warrant executed if possible. These are the steps that must be taken. They may even, because it's high profile, they may even get exact a grand jury to indict them. That's sort of like the next possible steps in terms of, you know, exacting the search warrant, finding out what they have, and sort of, investigating that, and then, going forward from there. So we're going to keep our eyes on this. Again, just like the Nexum people who ended up, literally, being sort of, exposed in a great big way. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Nexium also did some sort of collaborations with the Dalai Lama. Like, this guy, Keith Rainier, was a top tier con artist, and everything that he did was based on sex trafficking. That's all it was about for him. And it's really crazy and really sad. I urge you guys to look at the Nexium cult documentary on Netflix, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But I also urge you to look at the Desperately Seeking Soulmate Escaping Twin Flame Universe docu on Amazon that came out back in 2023. So this is a couple of years in the making, guys. Now, this is my advice to anybody who is, interested in some of these self-help groups. And this is what I used to tell people when I would do our community meetings that we would do with our constituents there within our district. And they would ask about, consumer protection, and they would ask about identity theft, and they would ask about all these things. And I would talk about this. And one of the things that I talked about with people, especially people part of our more vulnerable community, so this is like our older community, but also a lot of middle-aged people, who are looking for love in this particular instance, is to check things out. It's okay to look for self-help books. It's okay to, try and get some encouragement from groups and communities, and try to find communities that can help, because as you get older, it's harder to find friends, it's harder to find a community, it's harder to find a tribe. But you need to understand that there are bottom feeders out there, people who are betting on you being desperate to find a soulmate, find a husband, find a wife, find all these things. It's no different than, the sort of the Nigerian or the Indian love scams. You know what I'm saying? This is very similar, but the difference is they're an entire group. They are a cult. So what they do is vastly way more advanced than these people that are out here that you might, meet in like some of these chat rooms or whatever. These guys are really organized. And so therefore, you need to watch out for that. You know what I'm saying? Any group or any person, self-help or otherwise, that's asking you or requiring you to hand over tens of thousands of dollars, or requiring you to sever ties with your family in order to be part of their organization, or telling you to leave your life behind, or anything like that, is not worth it. And I would encourage you to contact law enforcement immediately to investigate whether this is, legit or not. And if it is legit, that's fine. But it's better to be wrong than to be, in danger of something and you lose your livelihood. I, experienced, when I was at the district attorney's office, people losing thousands of dollars, their life savings, because of a check fraud, or because of, some sort of fraud, identity theft that was going on. So this is not that much different than that, guys. Okay, so check that out. Make sure you guys are, checking out. And listen, I know what it's like to, want to find love, want to find the right person, want to find the right partner, and all of that. But anything that seems too good to be true, it probably is. All right, guys, that's Cast in Court TV for the day. And we'll get back to you soon, probably on Monday. This is Miss Public Info. And thank you for joining me today. All right, see you soon.